In search of a reason as to why Mr. Murphy authorised and allowed the institutionalised child abuse and murder, we take a look into his policing background for possible answers.
I'm immensely proud to be the chief of the force I joined as a 16-year-old cadet, as the Vice-Chancellor said, on the 6th of January 1975, almost 39 years ago. And I very quickly grew up patrolling the streets of Toxteth. It was quite a baptism. My father was a Liverpool City police officer before me, so I guess I've known little else.
It was from the Windsor Gardens that on the Friday before last a gang of white teenagers, armed apparently with sticks, bottles and bricks, went to the fort. As very few black youths live on the estate, the whites met no opposition when they arrived. They moved through it, breaking windows, smashing doors, damaging cars and shouting racial abuse. Afraid that the police either could not or would not protect them.
We sent for the coloured boys for protection. We'd only moved in one day. And she's a girl, she's not a boy.
No trouble if he wasn't being persecuted by the police and also by the skinheads.
All the windows went crash, and the screams of children and mothers. Is that the boys shouting, "Niggers, get out"? She said, "They're them. We'll have to get the police." So the police came. Said, "Will you come out and help us? There's gangs of youths around us." So they said, "I'm sorry, love." I said, "You have to." I said, "You have to get more police." I said, "It's not one window, it's every window that's broke." So another one was crying. She said, "Please get out, officer." He said, "I can't," he said. So I said, "Well, get more police." He said, "You know what you can do for more police, love? Get on to the Home Secretary. See, will he help you for more police? Another up, don't cry, you know, it'll be all right if these police had only come out, you know." And he was sitting back in the car, "Go back in your homes." I said, "Not likely," so they can come back with them bricks again.
Friday night, the skinheads was in this area for 2 hours, and the police wasn't around.
But are you saying you want to have the police around?
Not really, no.
Because when the police are around, they only arrest us.
How many, has anyone here been picked up by the police?
Yeah, everybody here.
The police are still patrolling the area heavily. Both black and white make frequent allegations about police harassment and in some cases unnecessary aggression.
My father was a Liverpool City police officer before me, so I guess I've known little else. I simply wanted to characterise my own policing background here in Liverpool.
By 1981, policing was causing concern.
Two gangs, if you like. There was a local black community who were trying to get on with their lives, and then there was this other group, which in this case happened to be the police, who seemed to be intent on making life as difficult.
This was hated, particularly by young black men, who regularly found themselves its target. In Liverpool late, stop and search became a source of fear and loathing.
When young people come out the youth club on a disco night, there'd be 2 or 3 other young people. And more than on occasion said to me, "Will you just watch me while I walk across the boulevard, because there's a police jeep parked on the boulevard. Just check me when I walk past it so I don't get no problem." Now, the police are there to protect young people. Here's young people asking me to stand on the corner and watch them while they walk across the road past the police vehicle so they don't get no harm.
My mother was still alive at that time. She would have told you a story if she was alive. It was the day she was called the breeder of mongrels by Mr. Oxford's police force. And that changed her for life. She now started to understand what was going on, because there's a law-abiding citizen, never been in trouble ever in her life, never had reason to talk to the police ever in her life, and suddenly is abused on her own doorstep, not by one police person, by 10 or 20 of them.
The Chief Constable said, "They are a criminal community and I will police them accordingly," which meant I will use force to enforce order. Local people, anybody who lived in Toxteth, so resented it that I came to the conclusion there was no option but for them to use force in reply.
And in 1981 I stood behind a riot shield in Upper Parliament Street.
The riots left 1 man dead and hundreds of police injured.
It began in Upper Parliament Street, and still the bricks, stones and lumps of iron were thrown, worst of all the petrol bombs. And against all this, riot shields and visors were not enough. At least 70 policemen were injured and 12 are still in hospital tonight. But the rioters in Toxteth were well prepared for their battle with the police. They carried with them a range of weapons, including iron railings, chisels, clubs and sledgehammers. And the Chief Constable was convinced it was a vicious attack on police.
Papers also show that the Minister for Merseyside, Michael Heseltine, was horrified at policing in Toxteth. Not racist, he thought, but brutal with everyone.
The violence escalated to levels not seen before on mainland Britain. By midnight, the rioters were in control of the streets of Toxteth and had set up barricades at major intersections. The police happened upon a tactic that worked. They used their vehicles to go on the offensive.
I run from the road, then a police Land Rover chased me and ran me against the wall. I collapsed to the floor. The police just grabbed me by 2 arms and dragged me like 300 yards and threw me in the back of a police van.
Paul Conroy's back was broken in this incident. Police armed with pump-action shotguns were now seen on the streets of Toxteth. In addition, for the first time outside Northern Ireland, tear gas was fired against civilian rioters. No warnings were issued.
There were big CS gas capsules with fins on the back, about that long actually, and they were designed for the situation where there was a siege, and they were designed to be fired through a window into a room where there was a siege, to hit the wall and explode CS gas so people would have to leave. But these were actually fired directly at people, and one of them was fired at Kenneth Anderson, went into his groin and exploded in his groin.
It's that main junction. 15 officers were hospitalised.
My father was a Liverpool City police officer before me, so I guess I know little else. I simply wanted to characterise my own policing background here in Liverpool.
There was no attempt to clean the area up before Whitelaw got there. Now, William Whitelaw had been a soldier. William Whitelaw had been a man who'd witnessed, I think, all sorts of violence. And he was shocked by what he saw. And that message got straight to Margaret Thatcher.
And she says, "And who are you?" So I introduced myself. And she was glaring at me because I'd said, "Yo, Maggie." And I just pointed out to her, "We're basically not here about money. We're not here about unemployment and poor housing. We're here about a race issue."
After the riots, police hatred towards the black community went covert. They now vented their hatred utilising the criminal justice system. Since the 80s, thousands of people have been imprisoned on falsified material. In the mid-1990s, Liverpool officers attended a hospital bedside of the victim of a shooting. They offered the victim £100,000 in criminal injuries compensation to name me as the offender. On the second day of a planned 6-week trial, the trial collapsed after I submitted a secret recording of the victim speaking of the agreement he had with the officers. Mr. Kamara was not so fortunate. Only recent forensic developments led to Mr. Kamara's release.
1981, a robbery at a betting shop in Toxteth. The manager, John Suffield, was stabbed to death when he failed to hand over the combination for the safe. 24-year-old John Kamara protested his innocence from the start.
The day that they give me the life sentence, I knew then from that day I would have to fight my case.
John Kamara chose to fight his case in isolation.
16 years I've spent in solitary confinement.
And throughout that time, were you writing letters day and night?
Yeah, every day and every night.
How many letters did you send?
I sent about 375,000.
I'm profoundly pessimistic. I believe that there is every reason to believe that there are just as many miscarriages of justice waiting to be revealed.
I simply wanted to characterise my own policing background here in Liverpool. The police service has always been excellent at training its people.
I have been PC2210 of Greater Manchester Police for the past 7 months, but I am also a journalist for the BBC. I was doing both jobs in order to investigate racism in the police. This was my class at Bruges National Police Training Centre in Warrington. More than 1,000 officers are trained here each year.
Asian hacking. It's fucking built in, lad. It's built in since you were fucking 2.
This was Ku Klux Klan fanatic PC Rob Pullings.
Stephen Lawrence killer. Yesterday. What are your thoughts on that? Isn't it good how good memories don't fade? He fucking deserved it. His mum and dad are a fucking pair of sponges. What do you think about the boys that done it? They fucking need fucking diplomatic immunity, mate.
The culture in any organisation is determined by its leadership. I am very conscious that it's me as the chief that sets the tone and the rhythm and ultimately the culture of the organisation.
Shortly after Mr. Murphy became Liverpool's chief constable and set his tone, the chairman of Liverpool's Black Police Officers Association resigned due to what he stated was race-related bullying and coercion within the force. The officer resigned due to what he described as moves to decimate the Black Police Officers Association by senior bosses. He said racism still existed within Liverpool Police. The article highlights one black female police employee whom had twice attempted suicide after becoming the victim of overt racism within the force.
Overt racism is extremely distressing for those involved. What many BME officers are saying is that racism in the police has moved on. It's more discreet and has gone underground.
Black police officers attempting suicide due to the severity of racism in the force could show why its police employees rejected the pleas for psychiatric help of a white woman that had married and mothered children to a black man, then used her to orchestrate the planned multiple murders of black people. The employees controlling the case intend to wait for her to orchestrate my execution. Then they intend to imprison what one officer labelled a nigger lover.
Prevention is better than cure.
Throughout the year leading up to the planned multiple murders taking place, Mr. Murphy had received countless letters from my local MP Derek Twigg, which related to the mother's threats to kill. After murder was achieved, but the mother's gunman failed to kill me, Mr. Murphy authorised the public be informed. Merseyside Police is now also in a position to confirm the force has not had direct contact with Mr. Osu's brother, reference the perceived threat to him, Mr. Osu's brother, or any of his family members. Not only does the MP's correspondence prove the Chief Constable lied to the public, the correspondence provides evidence that the Chief Constable is at the very least complicit in the planned multiple murders of black people, which led to one of Britain's youngest black commercial pilots being ruthlessly executed. To remove the continuing support from Derek Twigg, the police then lied to the MP, claiming that it did not live at the address he had been writing to me for during the previous 17 months. This left me without a local MP.
Despite the failings of a few, I have no doubt that standards are higher now than they've ever been. A cadre of experienced, highly skilled and committed senior leaders. I trust them.
After 5 months of what the force claimed was extensive forensic examination, Mr. Murphy's highly trained officers returned the vehicle Jason was executed in, with 2 blood-stained bullets which had executed Jason, and casually left in open view in the footwell. The reason for this was to frustrate and incite what they normally arrange as the black male violently attacking or even killing their white partners. This lack of care towards white mothers is simply due to them being in a relationship with a black man. These murders are being orchestrated with total disregard for the black children that have their lives destroyed due to one parent being murdered and the other imprisoned. The same method was deployed in the murder of Kay Diamond by the same officers from the same police station.
So what about policing here on Merseyside? What are our priorities? How well are we doing?
And fired a single shot through his head.
Humility. We all make mistakes. We should apologise, put things right and move on.
Liverpool police have robustly refused to apologise.
Absolute integrity. You only lose it once. Put simply, can I trust my Chief Constable?